Chapter 4. Blood holds wisdom. Wisdom holds strength. So every new life that is born inherits the knowledge of freedom and the strength to fight for it. Elder Fatu. Behold, the vast wonders of the multiverse, an infinite collection of galaxies. Unto themselves they are comprised of everything needed for life to exist. For those aware, each one to some degree mirrors the other. Our journey continues here, Earth 1, but to the inhabitants it is simply known as Earth. Here the continents split and separated. From that separation grew many cultures and beliefs. Some deemed it essential to coexist with nature for survival. Some saw growth only through dominance. The desire for individual cultures to prosper above all others birthed countless single-vision societies. The strong over the weak, the victims under the victorious, the poor behind the rich, all bastard variations of the same ills. So, we find us here, 282 years in the past from the present day, on stolen land known as the New Country. See the children of those shackled and dragged kicking and screaming to this continent, those procured like common goods to be burden bearers. The human pack mule for those seeking that generational wealth they were denied in their old country. Now, look here on the colony of South Carolina, as a desperate group of enslaved people find themselves under the heel and rule of a brutal and sadistic plantation owner. His name is Jacob Whitney, and his way is hard. His cruel hand falls even harder. His cruelty is fueled by what the old ones call bitter blood or demon's milk. Because Jacob Whitney's goal is not only to break the flesh and bones of his slaves, he seems to need absolute surrender. By erasing any remnants of their humanity, thus crushing their spirit, he finds enjoyment in breaking the wills of the men and women he owns. He wants them hollow, as close to lifeless as the living can be. Jacob Whitney wants them to find meaning from nothing else. He wants them to find salvation in nothing else but him. So, you can understand why the desire to be free of Jacob Whitney's cruelty is paramount. So, a small group of those enslaved on his plantation gathered in secret to devise a way. And only after much begging and pleading from the leader of the rebellion did Jimmy convince the Elder Fatu to aid them. Elder Fatu was still versed in the old ways. She knows fading rituals of the motherland, and they needed something otherworldly to deal with Whitney. So, on a cold, crisp night in September, Elder Fatu, Jimmy, and 5 others crept off the plantation deep into the nearby woods. When they reached a clearing, they all sat, knees to earth, cheek to heel in a tight circle around a small fire. Elder Fatu led the group in a ritual, seeking aid from the ancestors. She chanted through old song their desperation, suffering, and pain. She asked the winds to lift up her words. Beyond time, beyond distance, beyond the very realms of conscious understanding. She looked to the stars for direction. She asked the moon to break the silence and allow the request of these broken people to be shouted out through the universe. Then, gradually the air grew thick and warm. Elder Fatu's skin popped with cold static. Her breathing slowed, and her eyes rolled into restless pools of amber. Her words became foreign. The ground began to rumble, and the tree bark creaked and groaned. Then the once small fire erupted into a stunning blood-red pillar of flame. It stretched as tall as the tallest trees. The glare, though it caused the other 6 to squint from the brightness of the flames, it burned cold. Then, just as fast as it had come, with a whoosh it was gone. And in place of the raging fire sparkling amongst the ash sat a beautiful red gem. Elder Fatu reached a thin, weathered hand in and brushed back the ash. She lifted the stunning red gem high for all to see. She proclaimed it a gift from the ancestors and the key to their deliverance. She handed the gem to the field hand, Jimmy, for she sensed its need for him was as deep as his need for it. Jimmy took the gem and rocked it side to side in his palm. Now it was Jimmy's eyes like Elder Fatu's that surrendered to change. But instead of amber, his eyes turned white as the new moon. His body was surrounded by the gem's energy, and he began to hover above the ground. Jimmy knew then that he and the gem were now one. The strength that flowed through it now flows through him. Elder Fatu and the others looked on in amazement, and Jimmy smiled because he knew now he had the means. He could once and for all free his people from the cruelty of Jacob Whitney. Jimmy looked at Elder Fatu and the others who were all now standing and said with all certainty, With this blood gem, I will change everything. To be continued.